Greetings, this is Proof Ruby, the Nostalgic Catholic, with another Isaac Asimov short story. And for the third time in a row, we have a story whose original publication is far too obscure for any ordinary person to find. So, this one is kind of an oddity. Apparently, there's some organization about speakers and the idea of people who speak. And they published, I guess, some sort of a yearly book full of articles or speeches about people learning how to deliver good speeches and so forth. It's kind of the kind of thing you might be interested to be involved with if you give lectures before crowds. Isaac Asimov, as a person who at least is legally and nominally a professor, first associate professor, and ultimately just full professor, could give lectures for his university, which he would do, maybe once a year or something, gratis for his own or other places. He could, for a fee, give talks, and he liked to do that from time to time. It's also the kind of thing one does as a Toastmaster, and apparently he was a bit of that as well. So this was like some little group or society devoted to that. Well, he has the story called Ignition Point is included in, once again, The Winds of Change, and once again also there's a little blurb whereby he introduces this story. Okay, so there it is, introduction to them. I'll just read this all. I happen to be a professional speaker as well as a professional writer. In fact, I have been speaking for money for 30 years now and doing fairly well. There is an organization that puts out an annual entitled Finding the Right Speaker, in which various lecture agencies advertise their wares, and you can be sure that my lecture agent mentions me in his advertisement. The organization thought they would punch up their 1981 edition with a story, and they naturally thought of me. I agreed, thinking it would be a pleasant combination of my two careers, wrote Ignition Point in January 1981, and it appeared in the annual. Since I'm certain the readership of the annual is limited, it is with pleasure I include the story in this collection so that it might find its more appropriate science fiction market. So there we are, Ignition Point. And that's what it's about. The idea is to try to find a way to write a speech that somebody who maybe has no comprehension of the matter, hopefully he can at least pronounce the words for it correctly. Maybe words get written out phonetically wherever they're not common words. And they probably, that detail doesn't get mentioned in the story. And apparently the idea is somebody's trying to find out a way to make a speech or have somebody make a speech about something, and even where the person himself is not an inspired speaker. And they try to come up with stuff that has got some kind of artificial intelligence computer that's kind of trying to develop ways of saying a thing that would be more persuasive. And in the end, they started even inserting various little things like pause here, make this go up, let that go down, because you're just kind of going off on a tangent. Make this part go strong because you are emphasizing a point. Say this part louder. Pause after this for emphasis. Adding these little directions or some little diacritical marks to tell you when to do these things. Repeat the last sentence. Whatever. And that would help the person put a little more feeling or meaning or something into it, so he's not just reciting words as written, but actually saying things as if he understands and cares about what he's saying. And they have this perfect candidate for this sort of thing, an amiable chap who just can't who just doesn't know how to do anything but just be an amiable chap. He doesn't understand anything else, but he's a friendly, helpful sort of guy, and it was just perfect for this sort of thing, the subject. And they give him these detailed directions of not only what to say, but how to say it, and he starts doing it. But as things go along, he reaches an ignition point where it's like somehow it's good enough that it's got his audience responding to him as any speaker would like an audience to be responding to you. And once it's happening, I'll leave the conclusion of the story, and won't spoil the conclusion of the story. But it's kind of interesting. And I would say it's probably based on some of his own experience as a speaker and learning to say things that engage the audience and get them actually curious to hear the rest of what he has to say. So, it served its purpose. It's a good motivator. It's a nice little story. And that's all there really is to it. They have a yearly annual called Finding the Right Speaker. I looked for it. I couldn't find it on Google. I couldn't find any of its annuals on Bookfinder. eBay doesn't find anything. Oh, you know what happens when you go Finding the Right Speaker in Google? You get everything you never wanted to know about looking for speakers for your sound system. Well, that's Google for you. Or any text search. I mean, I'm not blaming Google per se. This would be a property of any textual search. Anyway, that's the story, and thanks for listening.